felt so bad that my first name wasn't Janet. If you noticed, I had a little trouble getting up here to walk. I don't know if any of you have trouble walking, but
No.
I've had 4 bunionectomies and 3 knee replacements. I don't know if you can tell from where you're sitting, but I only have 2 feet and 2 knees. So it's been quite a bit. But recently, my doctor gave me a little clue that all of you single people would like to have. Here it is. He said, Miss Janis, get rid of your walking cane, because I walk with a cane. And he said, Miss Janis, any single man that sees you walking with that cane will think of you as an older woman. But get you some of those trekking poles and walk around with one of those. That way you'll be identifying as an active adult. I love that. Well, I forgot my hearing aids, but I did remember my teeth, so we're in for a good start here. The other day I was on Cypress Parkway. I was a passenger, I wasn't driving. If I was driving, I'd have had to pull over. I saw a whole bunch of vultures circling over the McDonald's. And I thought, what are they looking for at McDonald's? So that reminded me of a good vulture story that I'd like to share with you. Old vulture sitting on a fence. His stomach is growling away. He's so hungry he can hardly move. Hasn't eaten for days and days and days. Well, this chicken hawk hears his stomach growling from 50 yards away. Chicken hawk just swirls around and sits on the fence right next to the old vulture. Says, brother, what are you doing growling your stomach like that? Why don't you eat something? The vulture says, well, I just gotta wait for something to die. Why don't you go kill something? Oh, I don't kill nothing. I just clean up. I'm not a killer. I'm a cleaner. The chicken hawk says, you ain't no cleaner, you a fool. Well, next thing you know, a rabbit comes along the fence line. And the chicken hawk says, I see some lunch right over there. And the vulture goes, stomach is just growling away. The chicken hawk says, son, I'm gonna tell you how it's done. Chicken hawk takes off, flies around in a big circle, comes down at that rabbit, just right at the rabbit, and just as he's about to nail that rabbit right in the head, the rabbit hopped, and the chicken hawk hit that fence post dead on. Broke his neck instantly. Vulture just sat back on the fence and said, well, I knew if I hung around long enough, something would turn up. And it was that chicken hawk he had for lunch, in fact. Oh, let me tell you another story. I told you I have some foot problems. Well, I recently went in trying to get me some custom-made boots. And I was sitting out in the waiting room, and the doctor did not have his door shut. The bootmaker did not have his door shut. And I got to hear the conversation between the bootmaker and Cowboy Bob, his client. Cowboy Bob was in there. He had just gotten some new boots about a week ago, and he was in for his follow-up appointment. Bootmaker says, well now, Cowboy Bob, how are those boots treating you? Cowboy Bob says, dude, these are the worst boots I ever had in my life. They're killing my feet. You told me these were custom made just for my feet. They're killing me. Bootmaker says, well, have a seat here. Let's look what's going on. They sat down, and instantly, the bootmaker said, Bob, I see what the problem is. I see it right here. You got these boots on the wrong feet. But Bob was all confused. And he looks back at the bootmaker and said, these are the only 2 feet I have. What are you talking about? So there. I want to tell you that coming to Florida, I feel like I got a little conned. The Sunshine State. I never seen so much rain. Rain, 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 rain. The Sunshine State. In Colorado, where I live, 305 days of sunshine a year, mile high, sunburn like you can't believe. Okay? We get people up in the north, where most of you are from. All of you are climate refugees. I bet there's hardly any Florida natives in the room. But we get these people that they'll say this, oh, I could never move to Florida because I like all 4 seasons. I gotta have all 4 seasons. I don't like it the same all year round. And I say, I've been to Florida. And in fact, they have at least 4 seasons that I know of. They have hurricane season. They have tourist season. They have, let's see, the wet season. They have alligator mating season. You got to stay away from your ponds. They warn you, stay away from those ponds during alligator mating season. And then, of course, you have road construction season, which lasts all year round. All year round. Let's see. Well, we did just get through Christmas. And I'd like to know, what do you give to someone who has everything? Which is like most of us in the room. We have everything. So what are they going to give us? Penicillin! Now, I hope that you appreciate how beautiful this room is tonight. It's still decorated for Christmas, and we're bringing in the new year. I love this room. I was here the other night for a dance, and I'm so glad to be among you singles, because I kid you not, I was just right out there in the hall, and I walked up to a gentleman, nice looking man, with his walker, and I said, sir, hi, I'm Joan Janis. Took out my hand to shake it with him. He recoiled back, said, my wife is in the restroom. I didn't ask you if you're married, I just said my name is Joan. And I think you're supposed to tell me your name, but these married people, they're very protective. I don't know how to be single. I was suddenly single at 66. And maybe everybody has a sudden singleness. Maybe it's a divorce. Maybe it's a death. Maybe it's somebody fell off a cruise ship. You never know what happens. But I found myself single, and I don't know how to do it. So I was hoping some of you could teach me some things. And I don't know if you're in the club because you're a dedicated single person. I'm single, going to be single, always been single. Or did you come to the single club to mingle? And do you get in the singles club, mingle, and then get back in the singles club when the mingling is over? I don't know. But I was eager to find all this out. Oh, let's see here. Did you hear about the invisible man who went to the doctor? No. He's still waiting to be seen, much like me. One of the things we all love about Florida is Disney. Not all of us, some of us hate it, but some of us love it. And a lot of people move here just for the Disney parks. I've seen license plates. The Magic Kingdom. Whoa! You'd never see that in Denver. You just, the Colorado, the Mountain State, that's about it. But you know what? Disney. I thought, I have a daughter, she's 27. I thought, you know what? I will call my daughter up and tell her, I'm going to be in Florida. Why don't you come down to Florida? and we could go to Disney together. Been there, done that. Been there, done that. That made me feel old, because if she's been there and done that, it means I've been there and done that too, and I don't remember being there or doing anything. How does that happen, you know? These young people, and how they just been there, done that, and they're moving on. Most of us like to repeat things. We've been there once, we had a good time. We're going back. Not everybody feels that way. And I do remember this about Disney, though. The Magic Kingdom. Magic everywhere, they said. Only magic I saw was the way they got the money out of my wallet. That was amazing how they could just make all my cash disappear easily, one fell swoop. Well, anybody here been to the grill? Oh, yeah. Stonegate Golf Club Grill? I've been there too. And here's a Stonegate Golf Club Grill story I hope you'll appreciate. Betty was sitting at the bar. Betty's single. And Dale, another single, you might know him, he came in and they were kind of eyeing each other across the bar. She was having a gin and tonic, he was having a beer. He kept stealing a look over at her, she'd steal a look at him, he'd steal a look at her, but they pretended they weren't looking at each other. Well, all of a sudden, Betty let out a sneeze. Could not help herself. Could not. The loudest sneeze you've ever heard in the grill. And you know what? Her glass eye popped out with that sneeze. Dale just happened to be scratching his ear when that eye popped out. And his hand was just right out here. And he just closed his hand over that little glass eye. This was his chance. He now had a reason to talk to Betty. He went over to the bar, walked around, sat down next to her and said, "I think you dropped something." And she was, "Oh, thank you. Pop that eye right back in." They had the nicest time. They chatted. They got to start keeping company together. And Dale had been single for a long time, and he'd been after a lot of different women, but none of them had ever really shown interest in him like Betty did. So one day, they were out at the Riviera laying on the lounge chairs under the umbrella, and Dale was saying, "Now, Betty, what is it you like about me? Is it my hairy legs?" She said, no. "But they're okay. She didn't want to offend him. She said, "Is it my lovely physique?" She said, no, because she knew that physique had left years ago. He said, "Is it my Lexus?" And she said, no, because he never let her drive that thing anyway. So finally, she kept being elusive, and he kept needling her. "What do you like about me?" Fishing for compliments. "What do you like about me?" And he finally was really insistent, and Betty had to tell him the truth. "You caught my eye!" Oh. If you're at the grill and you hear a loud sneeze, watch out for some flying glass. You never know what might happen here at Solavita. Are we Solavitans, Solavitians, Solavites, Solavanders? We don't know. I really, that's a question I have. I'll talk with y'all later about that. Here's another story, and this one is another Solavita story. This one happened on the bus last week, when my sister Chris, right back there, took me to a show in Orlando with the Travel Club, or some club, the Applause Club, the Party Club, the Friends Club. There's so many clubs I can't keep track. But anyway, we found ourselves on the bus, saw this wonderful, wonderful show, Something Like It Hot. Felt like we were at Broadway. Well, we were coming back on the bus, and one old gal, I think her name might have been Barbara, she kept going up to the front of the bus like every maybe 20 minutes or so, and she would hand the bus driver some peanuts. And the first time, thank you, he ate the peanuts. Second time, she went up, he gave her the peanuts, and he said, well, thank you. And she went back to her seat. Third time she came up, he said, why don't you eat these peanuts yourself? And Barbara said, well, I can't because of my teeth. And he said, well, why'd you buy them? And she said, I just like to suck all the chocolate off of them. Oh, I had kids that would suck all the salt off the pretzels, and you'd come over and you'd be like, what has happened here? And you wouldn't figure it out until about the third or fourth pretzel. So he luckily found out after the third handful of peanuts, and I don't think he had any more. Let's see. Another thing I'd like to mention about Florida is this humidity. That's why I live in Denver, the nosebleed capital of America. We love it there. We like how dry it is. You can leave your potato chips out in a bowl on the table for a week. It never gets soggy. Here, you just barely leave the bag open. Just roll the bag up, and there's just a little air hole. You come back, your chips are soggy, they're wet, your crackers are wet, everything's wet. Your bedding's wet, your pillows are wet, your cushions on your lanai are wet, everything is damp and wet. Oh, kills me. I can't even get dry after a shower down here. And you all know what I'm talking about because you all sweat like I do. And some of the women in here have to change their underwear 3-4 times a day because we sweat right through them. And that's just moving around. Everything stays hydrated except us. We have to hydrate. And in Denver, if you leave your donut out, you know what's going to happen? It's going to be a jawbreaker in half an hour. So that's what we call dry. We just hide our baked goods, but we leave our chips and crackers out. And I have found that whether it's in Colorado or whether it's right here in Florida, the best way for me to stay hydrated is to drink my weight in frozen margaritas each day. I hope some of you will be doing that at the next meeting when there's a bar. Let's see here. My sister, aforementioned, loves to do crossword puzzles. And she was sitting there doing one the other day. She says to me, how do you spell Armageddon? With an A or an E? And I said, I don't know, but I don't think it's the end of the world. And then the next thing she asked me, and I thought she'd known this one, she said, how do you spell Mississippi? And I said, the state or the river? Which do you mean? That was a joke. You might want to catch up with me on there. None of us has had to do a spelling test for a while. Another thing, I am, as I mentioned, a visitor coming here, and I occasionally visit people's homes, as you may too. And have you found you can no longer watch TV at another person's house? Because you sit down, and they don't just have one remote, they have one remote to turn it on, one remote to turn up the volume, one remote to turn on the cable box, one remote to record. And I call them up say, I want to watch TV. Just use the remote control. And I say, this is not a remote control, darling. This is remote out of control. You're out of control with these things. So what are you going to do? You know, I'm trying to keep up with technology, but I wish it would start keeping up with me. And How many of you here go to the gym, walk, do anything to try to stay in shape? Okay. 3. Okay, good. I try to stay in shape myself. And about November, around Thanksgiving, I felt, I'm getting a little pudgy here. So I started lifting some potato sacks. And I started with 2-pound sacks, potatoes. And I did my best, 2 pounds. Every day I did several repetitions. And then I moved up in December to a 5-pound sack of potatoes. And I was lifting those things. Come January, I really pushed myself hard. I went up to 20-pound sacks of potatoes. And I was lifting them sacks, feeling my arms getting stronger and stronger by the minute. And I think in February, I'm going to actually add some potatoes to those sacks. Do we have any retired lawyers in the room? Oh, okay. We won't tell anybody. How many of you ever had a lawyer, known a lawyer, seen a lawyer, loved a lawyer? Oh, not one hand. Okay, there you go. This is a lawyer joke for you then. You see, there were these 2 lawyers, married couple, lived in Chicago, of all places. Chicago doesn't have anything to do with the story, but I wanted to tell you where they lived. And they were thinking, they'd heard all their life, you can't take it with you. You can't take it with you. But, these were some pretty darn smart lawyers. And they thought, we can outsmart anybody and anything. We can take it with us. So they hatched a plan. And one day, finally, the husband lawyer kind of got sick. Laid down in his bed, and he said to his wife, you know what? I got an idea. This is what I'm going to do. Take all of our cash. Well, half of our cash. You can have the other half. But take half of our cash and put it up in the attic. And then, when I am rising up to heaven, I'll just grab those 2 bags of cash and go. And when we get to heaven, you get up there, you'll meet me, we'll have plenty of money. We'll take it with us. The poor gentleman did expire later that night. And we had all the funeral arrangements that you would have for a lawyer. There were several absent guests at the funeral. And what happened was, his wife, a few weeks later, was sitting back in her rocking chair, and she said, I wonder if he took those 2 sacks of cash. She climbed up the ladder, the rickety ladder, to the attic, and guess what? They were still there. And she said, doggone it, I told him we should have put those in the basement. All right, well, I got one last joke for you that I hope the women in the room can relate to. This lady was at her hairdresser, and she said, my boyfriend and I are going on a trip to Rome. He bought tickets for us, and we're going to Rome. And this hairdresser was a little bit of a sourpuss. Ever had a hairdresser that was a little bit of a sourpuss? This one said, Rome. Rome is a dirty city. It's filthy. Sewage runs in the street. There's nothing good to eat. It's all pasta, pizza. You can't get anything good in Rome. What a terrible choice. The woman was quite taken aback. The hairdresser said, what airline are you flying on? The lady says, well, Continental. Oh, Continental! Worst airline ever! Oldest planes, rickety, you'll be lucky if you don't crash. Terrible flight attendants, terrible service, bad food. I can't believe you're going on Continental. What a disaster. Poor woman was starting to feel really bad. Where are you staying when you're in Rome? Well, we're going to stay at the Trieste Trevino. Oh, the Trieste Trevino. That place, they really advertise it. They make it out like it's a fabulous, fabulous place, but you know, it's a dump. It's been there since Roman times, and they've never updated it. It's disgusting. This woman's really feeling bad. And what are you going to do when you are in Rome? Are you going to visit any places? Well, we are going to go to the Vatican. I'm kind of hoping I'll see the Pope. The Pope? The Pope will be a dot way up in a window. What are you going to see the Pope? That's ridiculous. I can't believe you're going to waste your time going to the Vatican. Well, lo and behold, this lady and her boyfriend, off they flew to Rome. And they had them a trip. Well, of course, you know how your roots grow out after a couple months? She had to go back to her hairdresser. Because you always go back to the same one, no matter how good or bad they are. You get used to them and you be loyal. And you always say they're the only ones that can cut my hair the way they do it. She went back to her hairdresser. And the hairdresser, well, how was your trip to Rome? Oh, I have to tell you, it was wonderful. We had the most wonderful food. We had the most beautiful dining experiences, the best waiters, the best wine. We had everything deluxe. I love that city. Fountains, art, museums, everywhere. What a beautiful, beautiful city. I want to go back. Well, how was the flight? Oh, as a matter of fact, we were bumped. So they upgraded us to first class. And we happened to get on the Continental's very newest plane. We had the best service. We had hot peanuts. We had champagne when we took our seats. It was wonderful. I've never had such a wonderful flight. How was the Trieste Trevino? Well, it turned out, it's true, it had been there since Roman times, but they just did a $25 million renovation. It's now the gem of the city. And the owner knew that we were fine, wonderful Americans. And he gave us the owner's suite. We had a view of Rome. We had a view of the Mediterranean. It was so beautiful. It was the most deluxe time you can imagine. Most deluxe, luxurious hotel I have ever stayed in my life. Well, did you go to the Vatican and see the Pope? As a matter of fact, we did go to the Vatican. And we toured around. We saw the Sistine Chapel. We saw fountains. We saw wonderful, wonderful art. And in the Vatican, it turned out that the Vatican's guard came over to us. And he said, "Excuse me, Signora. Tuesday, 3 times a week, sometime, the Pope would like to visit with a random visitor. They call a random visit with the Pope. Would you like to have audience with the Pope?" They couldn't believe their luck. They could not believe it. So she said, "So we had an audience with the Pope, His Holiness himself." Hey, well, what did the Pope say to you? "Holy Mother of God, who wrecked your hair."